Hello, and welcome to another training video for Enlite POS powered by Dark. Today we're going to be going into the billing section and taking a look at statements. If you came with us from the previous video, you already know how to get to that section, but we're going to go ahead and hit this back office button. I'm going to enter my manager PIN, and then we're just going to hit the billing button. So in the previous video, we covered what all of these fields are and what they do. So I'm not going to go back over that stuff. If you want to see how all of these work and what they mean, then just go look at that video. For now, all we're going to do is show you how to view statements, and we're going to talk about some of the customizations and the different billing templates or statement templates that we have built into the system. So to start, over here on the left, you see we have all these checkboxes. I'm going to select the customer for which I want to see the statement, and I'm going to select the statement for Diane Prince. So I'm going to pick Diane Prince here, and then we're going to come all the way to the top here and look at the statement tab. So this is what our statement looks like right now. We're going to walk through all the elements of it. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So over here we see we have the company information, and then down here we have the information of the person that we're billing. All of these statements are formatted for the double window envelopes. You can see we have the email and the customer note. These are optional. You can remove these if this is not something you want to show. Over here on the right, we have a little billing header. This is a custom field. It can have whatever you want on it, or you can choose not to use it. Whatever you tell us to put will appear up here. And then down here, coming into the actual statement, we have our statement label, we have the statement number, we have the statement period that the statement is covering. So this is the month of November. We have the payment terms for the customer. In this case, it's net 15. Again, this is all that you configure at the customer level. Then over here, we've got our subtotal, how much the customer owes us. Then we have our tax fields, and note that there are two tax fields, and I've got them named strangely. This one is new e-tax, and this one is new tax. The system handles two tax fields, and it lets you name them whatever you want. So in different states, these are called different things. So whatever you tell us to name it is how it will appear here. Then this is the total due for the period. If during this period the customer had made any payments, they would be reflected here and they would be deducted from the total due. And then down here we have our current balance, which is everything due for the current period, and this customer happens to be carrying over a previous balance. So this is that amount, and then this is the total due for this customer. Before I move off this section, I know that in some states this has to say, this label here has to say invoice or has to have very specific wording for it to apply, and it can't say statement. This label can be renamed to whatever it needs to be for your state or your country. We can just put whatever you need there. Down here we have a breakdown of all the items that the customer is being billed for. This is our standard template. It shows the most information. So over here we have the tag. This is basically the service type. So this one is mixed. That just means it has, in this case, it has a tailoring job and a dry cleaning job inside the same invoice. This is also dry cleaning and tailoring. This is just dry cleaning. So the service tag will appear here. These are your invoice numbers, basically the order numbers for the customer. And then we have our customer name, customer last name, the date the ticket was created. I want to jump down here. These are the actual items in each of these invoices. So in this invoice 900-1, there is a jacket sleeve hem and then a two-piece suit. Here in the parentheses, we're displaying the modifiers. And if you've been through the front office series, you know that the modifiers can be basically like upcharges or any details that you record regarding the item. So it can be colors, patterns, materials. Occasionally some of those might have charges assigned to them. So maybe for you it would be silk charges an extra 50 cents or a dollar, whatever, however it works in your operation. So these can be listed here. This is optional. Out of the box, when you run your statements, this won't be there. I wanted to put it in here to show you that it is possible. And the reason why it's included is that some people have items like laundered shirt, and then that'll be $5. And then in the next time it appears, it'll say laundered shirt, and it'll be $10, or just a different value. And the difference is these modifiers. There was an upcharge in one and wasn't in the other, and customers get confused as to why the same item is appearing with different prices. So this is a field that you can enable if you want, and it just gives the customer more information. Over on this column, we have our piece count for the different items that are in each of the invoices. We have the quantity of items that were processed for each of the invoices. If an invoice has been closed during that period, meaning it has been picked up and paid inside of this billing period, then it would show the close date here. Over here is the amount due for that invoice. So this is the totals for the amount due for each of these invoices. And then over here is our balance due. So this is what the customer has to pay us. So if, for example, the customer had paid $30 of this invoice, then the amount due would still say 64.46 because that's what the invoice total is. But over here on the balance, we would take into account that the customer has paid those $30 and this would only say 34.46. So that's the difference between these two. So amount due is the total of the invoice and balance is how much the customer still owes on that invoice. And most operations are usually identical. All the way down here at the bottom, we have our count of invoices that we're billing. We have the amount due total, and then we have the balance due total. Okay, and if we scroll a little bit further down, you'll see this payment section. This is an optional section. You don't have to display it if you don't want to, but for any payments that were received from the customer for this period of November, the payments will be recorded here, and it'll show you the payment method and the invoice that it was applied to as well as the date. So for this one, we have 890-1, and it was paid on the 4th. It was paid by credit card. Here is a reference number. This is an integrated payment processor, so we receive the reference number from the processor. And we applied $4.86 of that to invoice 890-1. You'll see that these two match, so these were paid at the same time with the same credit card and the same transaction. So 891-1 was also paid 33 cents, and it was all part of the same transaction. You can see that we've got some in here for store credit. We have some that were paid in cash. So this section is just going to show all these payments. We do have a different way of presenting this. This is the one with the most information. It can also be presented where the payments are collapsed down by batch. So instead of having two credit card payments here from the same batch because they have the exact same reference number, we would just show one with the total and the reference number. Of course, when you do that, you lose the detail of what invoice was paid with each of those. So it just depends on how much detail you want to show your customers. This is the most detail, but you have that option if you want to show a little bit less. And then down here we have a footer. It's just a billing footer, and it's just a custom field. It's completely optional. Whatever you tell us to put here is what will appear. Okay, so this is our standard template. And before we move off this, I want to show you you have two different options for managing these billing templates. So if your customers are used to getting them mailed to them, then you can just hit this print button and it's going to print out the billing statement from a regular large report printer, not a receipt printer. So you have to make sure that you have that configured. So if I were to hit print here, it's going to bring up the standard Windows print window and I can send what printer I want to send this to. Or I can email the statement if the customer has an email on file. In this case, this one does. I can just hit email and the customer is going to receive an email with that statement. There we go. It's been sent off and the customer is going to receive that. Before jumping off into a different format, I do want to show you that you can manage these more than just one at a time. So I'm going to come back here to my customer list, and this time I'm just going to select several people. There, we'll just select a bunch of people there. We'll say those are the ones that we're working with right now. I come back over. You do have to keep in mind that if you select 50 people or 30 people on that page to generate their statements, this switching over to the statement page might take a few more seconds. This happened relatively quickly. There wasn't a lot of information there. But if you have very large statements and you select a lot of customers at the same time, and depending on your bandwidth, this page might take a little bit longer to load. But once it loads, you'll see that this is the one that we were just looking at. This is Diane Prince. It starts at the top. And then right underneath it comes the next statement, which is, discounts not printed. This is our test store, so you see some weird stuff in here sometimes. But all the statements just load up one after the other. Okay, so if I wanted to come back up and I'm going to hit print, then it's going to print out all the statements in the same order that they're displayed here. And if I wanted to email the statements, I don't have to email one by one. I can hit email all statements. And then all the customers that were selected, whose statements are showing here, assuming they have a valid email address, are going to be emailed their statement. Okay, and before we jump off of this email subject, I do want to show you the example. So this is the statement that we just emailed to Diane Prince. So it's very similar to what we were just looking at. These are the same sections that we were looking at here. And then here are the details of the statement, their payments, um, and the total amount that she owes us. So this is what an emailed statement would look like. Of course, it's going to vary a little bit depending on your email client. But as you can see in the message, they do receive all the detail they need to make their payments. All right, so we covered this standard template and all the fields inside it. Let's take a look at a slightly different template. I'm going to clean things up and then we'll look at that template. Okay, we're back on the screen and I've modified the template only a little bit. So this is the same version of the standard template. You'll see all of the same fields that we were just looking at. Over here now we're showing the taxes by item. Some states require this, some countries require this. It's up to you if you want to show it or not. So remember again that these tax labels can be modified. These are showing like this just to show you that they can be modified, so they look a little bit strange, but we can name these whatever your country or your state requires. One thing I did forget to mention, I want to mention it really fast. This is a ticket note. So this is an optional field. This is just the note that was put on the ticket. Some customers use it, for example, when they're billing hotels, they put in the customer's name or the customer's room number. Sometimes that's required from the hotel to bill, and they can be displayed here. So I forgot to mention that when we were going over it the first time. So this is the same standard template except for that it is showing taxes. So I'm going to change the template again. Okay, here we are again, and now this is our compact version of the billing template. And it has very similar information. So again, we have our business information here at the top. We have who we're billing down here. This is formatted for the double window envelopes as well. We have our billing header that we looked at before. What really changes is the way the data is displayed. So now, instead of showing all of the individual items in an invoice, we're just showing the invoice number. We're showing the date that it was created. We're showing the service type. So there's our mix that we had seen before, our dry cleaning, our dry cleaning tailoring, and the amount. If any payments have been made during the period, they'll show up here. And then this is the balance owed. Over here, you can see that the summary is a little bit different than the one we had at the top, but it's very similar. So we've got our total owed for the period. We have our previous balance. We have any payments that may have been received during the period. And then we have our total amount due. Down here, we have the same payments information. Again, on this template, this can be shown or hidden, up to you. But the main thing is that this is a much more compact version of the template if you're sending a lot of billing templates, if you have to print them out, if you have a lot of billing customers, or if you're just concerned with the amount of pages that it's taking showing all the detail, this is another option for you. Oh, and one last thing to mention, this is also displaying the ticket note the way that we had done previously. Again, this is optional. This can be hidden here and it'll just show the invoices, the dates, the amounts, and that's it. It's a pretty compact template, very easy to understand, but it does sacrifice some of the detail that we had in the previous template. Okay, well, I think that about covers everything that we wanted to see with viewing statements and our different statement templates, as well as some of the basic customizations that you can do to these fields. We also talked about both how to email the statements and how to print them out, and how to bulk email the statements with this email all statement section, as well as how to select multiple statements as one so that we can work with customers in a batch rather than doing them one by one. So I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. From every one of us here at Dark, as always, thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your business. We'll see you on the next video.